Excellent.
Excellent. Excellent.
All right, how's that?
All right, ready. Now we don't have any sound.
Victor, can you hear me now? Oh,
It's coming through the owl? Or it's
it's coming through your computer. It's going. It was the speakers over there that were causing this loop. So we're good. All right. So we are now live on YouTube. We're streaming with sound, minimal echo. Don, let me quit talking.
Let me call the September 19th, 2024 meeting of the Citizen Advisory Board meeting to order. Welcome each and every one of you here. One of our standard procedures is to go around and have, even though Eric has, before the meeting began, introduced people, we will go around and give everybody opportunity to introduce themselves. We'll go around the inner circle first and then also give the people in the back an opportunity to introduce yourself. You become part of the official record of the meeting. Zach, we'll start on the far side with you. Your mouth's full, so we'll go ahead and call on you.
Sure. Zach Boyarsky, E-TAS.
Reese Henderson.
Cab.
Rodney Hill cab.
Ben Stinnett, cab.
Gaylord Brooks cab.
Fran Johnson, outgoing vice chair, cab.
Myron Russell cab.
Gabe Brewer, cab.
Dory Bob Clark cab.
Don Barger, cab chair.
April I. DOE.
Buzz Smith DOE.
Eric Roberts, EHI, board staff.
Haley Wiggins, EHI.
The first here.
Later Smiles, Four Rivers.
Robert Schmidt, Four Rivers.
Marshall Jenkins, up here as a community.
Amina Watkins, here's a community member as part of NAACP.
Mary Evans, Kentucky Department of Environmental Protection.
Steve Christmas, Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership.
Angus McKelvey, DOE.
Alexander Roberts. I'm a sub at FRMP, but also here on behalf of leadership team.
Darla Bowen, Ellie Federal.
Vicki Watson, just here with community.
Thank you and welcome to each and every one of you. Do we have any liaisons on the line, Eric?
So it looks like we have Brian Lanard. Hey, Brian, how are you? Good. Brian's with the Commonwealth of Kentucky, and then Victor Weeks. Hey, Victor. Yeah, thanks for being here.
Okay, thank you. You have in front of you a copy of tonight's agenda. Are there any changes or corrections that need to be made to the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda will be as printed this evening. We'll start first with any DOE comments tonight.
Sure, a few project updates. 33 segmentation. We've segmented 124 converters so far. So the team's making great progress and continuing to do that safely. Also, FRMP surpassed 3 million man hours without a lost workday case. So not only are they making progress, but they're doing it safely. So that's very important. And then converters, bundles in the storage, we're at 115 that have been size reduced and put in box in our storage yard. So for our 114 free on disposition, we are at about 957,000 pounds for the calendar year EM1 goal of 1 million pounds. And we look to meet the 1 million pounds probably toward the end of October, early November at the latest. Last Thursday, there was Paducah Chamber DC fly-in occurred. Great representation from the community. I think it was a record number of folks that went to talk about how great Paducah is and why they need to invest in Paducah. So a lot of good work going on there. And then just finally, thank you, Fran, for community commitment, the cab commitment, and everything you do. So we hate to see you go, appreciate everything you've done. That's it.
Buzz, comments?
Yeah, I would like to recognize the 3 potential CAB members we have here. I don't know if you guys would like to say a little bit about yourself, what you do, that sort of thing. But if you don't want to, that's okay too. Marshall Jenkins.
Yes, hello, I'm Marshall Jenkins. I am currently a junior mechanical engineering student at the University of Kentucky Paducah campus. This past summer, I was a project controls intern with ETAS, so I have been on site and somewhat familiar with what they do there, and I'm very interested in becoming a member of the CAB.
Thank you. Darla?
Yes. I'm Darla Bowen. I work with Allied Federal Services. I'm also a former FRMP site employee, and I also own a farm out in the vicinity of the plant, so I'm very interested in the CAB and the activities here.
Thank you. And Amina?
Yeah. So I'm looking to join the CAB just because I'm interested in the impact that it's had on our community as far as economic development and bringing in more jobs and realizing that it's a long-term, deal that can potentially, boost more jobs in Paducah. But being a part of the NAACP, of course, we want to make sure that, it's inclusive and everyone's involved. And so open to bringing a different perspective to this group and learn some things from a bunch of different backgrounds. So thanks for being here.
Good. We're glad to have you, and thank you all for your interest. And Fran, of course, I can't say enough about all that you've done. It was just 6 years ago that we wanted Fran on the CAB, and she, at the time, you worked for the chamber, and there's just concern whether or not it'd be difficult for the chamber to have a member on the board, and it's just now there's no doubt it's a great benefit for the community that what Fran's done. She's helped also pull the chamber more involved in the Citizens Advisory Board. And I would tell you, I've been a federal employee for 16 years, and one of the first tasks, I've always been the federal coordinator, was, to see if we get more active community members involved. So I remember I went to, I'm trying to think of the chambers, the president of the chamber. She lives in North Carolina now. Elaine Spalding. Yeah. And she said, I would never recommend any of my members to be on the Citizens Advisory Board. And that was because there's a lot of conflict, and there's just a lot of, it really was, people weren't pulling in the same direction. And so we've just come a long way, and I think Fran's been a part of that. And we just, thank you. So those are my comments.
I'm blushing again.
Huh?
I'm blushing again.
Are there any comments from any of our liaisons present tonight?
Victor, do you have anything for us? Sarah?
Okay. Moving on down and then to our administrative issues. Up first is the election of our leadership for an upcoming year. You have in front of you a ballot. As you can see, you look around the room, you can see these people represented here tonight. Being nominated for chair is Ben, over on the far side. Vice chair, Gay. I always thought it was interesting that I have to be nominated to be the past chair. What if they vote me down?
Should have done better in the primaries, right?
Rewrite history.
And then, so that would be the key leadership.
Sure. Is it okay if I jump in real quick? So we'd asked over the last couple of weeks for folks with an interest in serving as leadership to kind of designate or nominate someone else to serve. Ben and Gay were the only two that expressed an interest. And so we talked with them, talked with the executive committee, and have put forth this slate based primarily on the fact that Ben has served on the executive committee, so that makes it maybe a little more natural slide into the chair's role. gives Gay a little chance to get her feet under from an administrative perspective on what we're doing. Obviously, Gay has a wealth of knowledge on the site and the cleanup process from her time with the Commonwealth and all that. So she will pick things up and run in no time flat. But you know, there's not a significant difference between chair and vice chair, right? You know, so it's we're good either way. And honestly, we have a room full of really capable candidates. They were just the two that maybe had the most time on their hands at this point, because I know a lot of you are really busy, and so we are thankful that they were willing and able to step in.
The executive committee would include those 3 elected top positions, and then we've had 5 other people indicate a desire to serve on the executive subcommittee. Billy Bob, Galen, Reese, Rodney, and Myron. Some of that group has already served on the executive committee. They're very familiar with what's asked of them. Monthly meeting in the afternoon to be able to attend, to be able to do that. And we ask that tonight you take a moment and decide who you wish to have represent you as the Citizens Advisory Board on that executive committee. Unless there are, I guess it's possible Ben or Gay or I myself could not be elected. I mean, no votes or whatever, but we're going to assume those are a done deal. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I be stricken from the ballot this evening, for health issues?
Okay.
Boo, yes, boo.
You just don't know.
I understand, Galen. So along with Galen, Riley Beth Willett just recently had a newborn. Eric Butterball had it. So we had that other people asked to be for that same reason. Like we understand.
Thank you.
Yep.
So thank you for bringing that to our attention tonight. And hopefully the next time the opportunity arises, you'll be able to do that. So again, Billy, Bob, Reese, Rodney, and Myron. If you'd take a moment and mark your ballots at this time. If you just wish to fold it in half, you do not have to fold it into the smallest piece possible.
Fold it into a swan or a
Great.
frog that jumps. Yes, thank you. So we will have Buzz and Haley look and just as a confirming 2 sources to make sure we get the data right. That's exactly what it is.
It's like for us to move on while they're...
With 37 votes,
I was going to say, yes. Yeah, double check that there's not more votes than there are people here. Yes. While we're waiting for those final results to show up that way, you should have in front of you a copy of the draft annual work plan for fiscal year 2025. That will be our next document. One of the things I would encourage you to do, if you've not already done it, is to read the first 2 pages on the inside to give you a better idea of who we are and what we do. I encountered a person today in one of my opportunities who was in Washington, D.C. last week. She wasn't sure what the cab did, though. So, April, that's your challenge. Make sure the cab and the chamber are on the same wavelength to be able to do that. I'll draw your attention on that second page, page 3. For those of you who mark calendars way in advance, assuming the work plan is adopted tonight, the CAB meetings up through June of next year. That way you can work your vacation schedule around those meetings.
Are you talking to me?
Doesn't everybody do that?
Oh, okay.
You wanna announce them?
Billy Bob Clark, Rodney Hill, and Myron Wessel are our three top voters.
Congratulations, guys.
Congratulations. And also, Kay and Ben, the best to you as you take on that leadership role as well. Okay?
Excellent. So as we're walking through the work plan, we talked about it a little bit last month, but just so everyone's aware, we've kind of looked at restructuring how we do things, trying to cover more material while we are together. Tonight notwithstanding. Tonight's going to be a little light, a little quick meeting. Enjoy it, cash out. We know that there's some big things coming up in the next future, in the next few years. April has alluded to the regulatory decisions associated with the kind of the planning project they're calling Decision 2029, streamlining the regulatory process to fewer decision documents, coming to a decision on on-site disposal and whether or not we're going to create an on-site waste disposal facility, what that's going to look like, and where it's going to sit, and how it impacts. And then building D&D, environmental media, right? So what are we looking for? One document that will be able to address groundwater, soils, and all the contaminated earthbound pieces out there, right? So those big decisions that will play a great impact on the future of our site and on our community. And so as they're moving towards that, we know that folks look to the CAB to be kind of community leaders on these projects, especially on the technical side, being able to say, is this safe, is this good, what's going on? And so we want to make sure you guys are educated and know as much as you can and be able to speak to these matters. And so with that, we have to kind of bump up our activity level a little bit. So the plan was to do a couple maybe larger presentations at a time, take a month off so that if we need to do any work, need to do any additional digging, we can, and then come back and do a couple more heavy projects. So it gives us a little like, one hard day, give a day off. One hard day, give a day off is kind of what we're looking at. So if you look starting in November, which will be our next CAB meeting, we're going to look at the ACER, which is the Annual Site Environmental Report. That's where DOE reports out all of the data that they have collected on their environmental monitoring. It lets you know, and it's kind of the proof document that the work being done is safe to human health and the environment, right? And that's how we know that workers are safe, plant neighbors are safe, the community is safe. The ACER is kind of that public-facing document on that. There is a student version of that they have been working on that allows a local high school to kind of dig into that and create their own, maybe a simplified version, more user-friendly version of that. Also allows those kids to kind of dig deep into some technical issues and work with DOE's contractors to kind of understand what's going on. It's a really great program. And then we're also going to talk about the environmental monitoring program in general. What's it look like? Where are we doing samples? What all kind of samples? How do we know that what we're getting is valid? How does it all work back and forth? So it's a couple big pieces, right? But it's really all built around making sure that when April comes and says, hey, yes, like we're doing a lot of work, but everything's good, everything's above board. This is the proof behind the pudding that shows you that it's there.
May I ask a question
Yes.
at this time? When we talk about the environmental report, are there going to be certain items that we really don't talk about there because they're a whole separate subject? Because in next June is PFAS.
Mm-hmm.
Is PFAS considered a part of the environment? Because I suppose at one time it really wasn't, and now it is, or not? Is that a whole separate category?
So I'll let Angus answer a little bit of this because we just did the environmental monitoring.
Welcome to the
plan that we
new
just
guy.
did, yeah. I just tapping into my resources while I got them here, you know. But so this is going to report the previous year data, and that
Okay,
previous
so
year
that
data
doesn't
did
include-
not have
okay.
PFAS in it. And then we're looking at that as part of this year's update,
Okay.
potentially adding, you know, for the wells that we have in there, so.
Okay, thank you.
Starting to incorporate.
Is there anything you need to add to that? Is that?
I think a lot of it is going to be based on regulatory changes, and we're kind of creeping forward with guidance coming down the pike. It's not just as easy as historic. You have TCE sample. The regulatory is still being expanded. It's trying to get our arms around at the same time.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Angus got hit with the classic, the boss says, hey, I'm going to let you answer this, and the boss answers for you. And then they says, you did a good job with that. It was a really good answer.
I seen that panic on his face.
Okay, so that's November. December is when we get together and we hear from the contractors on, yes, they are actively doing a lot of work in different areas on site, but they're also parts of the community, and it gives them a chance to kind of brag on the work they do. Volunteerism, community giving, things of that nature, and so we'll hear from them on that. December's a good time to celebrate that. The plan is to take January off unless something comes up between now and then, but weather's bad, everybody's in the post-holiday haze, so we'll slide through January. February, we're going to talk about dollars, right? We're going to get into the federal site life cycle estimate. That is the big project planning overview document that April sends up to headquarters that they use to know that we have a work plan, a budget and a scenario to know what's going to happen over the life of the project while they're tearing everything down, cleaning up. So we're going to talk about that a little bit, as well as what the funding and budget estimates are looking like for the near term, next couple years. We talked over we did this last time, the federal budget. April's always working on at least 3 budgets, right? Current year, the next year, the year after that, doing planning. A lot of times they're doing wrap up from the previous year, right? So sometimes they're closing out one, running on current year, getting ready for the presidential budget number for the next year, starting estimates for the year out. So there's numbers floating and going back and forth. And so both of those items in February are items where the CAB has an opportunity for input, specifically that April's probably going to ask us for that. So just kind of, earmark that's a good opportunity. April, the month, not the site lead. Land transfer is a big deal. We know it's coming down the pipe. You guys have been reading the paper. We've been talking with Buzz about it. That we know that there are folks interested in reindustrialization of the site and getting, ideally the emphasis of the program, the EM program, is to clean up the site, hand it back to the community, right? And so this will be our first piece of land that's being transferred, so we'll get an update on where that stands and what that's going to look like. And then we're also hopefully going to hear from, we've got a couple different initiatives going on for reindustrialization. We've got the chamber grant should be wrapping up about that time, if I remember correctly. They were kind of doing some initial studies on future use possibilities. We have the Murray State grant that is doing kind of that second tier, a little deeper dive into some of this stuff. And they're getting set up now and kind of getting their feet under them, so to see what that's going to look like. And then, obviously, you have PACRO and some of the others entities that are doing some of the hands-on reindustrialization work, right? The courting folks. So the idea is we'll hear from them so that we are all on the same page, right? As you guys work on writing advice and recommendations to DOE, they are in line with what everyone else wants, and we all have kind of a role to play in this, and so understanding that. So that's April. June, hopefully we will get a chance to, that should be PFAS. As Angus said, they're trying to get their arms around what the regulatory requirements and what that's going to look like, and it's still kind of coming together. It's a nice way of putting that, right? Like there's a lot of decisions and discussions as to where it is, and so they're trying to figure out, how it's going to be regulated and what we can do about it and where it's going. I know we got a couple interns here, and both FRNP and ETOS had multiple interns working. I think DOE had an intern that was working PFAS specifically, like that was their project. They put a lot of resources that way, looking for understanding what's going on, looking for ideas on how to treatment, on what the regulatory stuff, what other industries are doing. Like, so they threw a lot of resources that way, as well as the folks that are full-time on site. So that's PFAS, and then we'll get a DUF 6 update, right? So the last couple of years we have, last year we did a DOE tour, but a site tour, but we've gone and kind of walked through the DUF 6 facility 2 years ago and 3 years ago. So this will give that group a chance to come in and kind of talk to us about what's going on, because what they do is really important. And there's some, depending on how things go, could be some changes there in the next little bit. So July, we will plan to go out on site. We'll talk about what you guys want to see, what you want to kick around. Maybe they'll let you drive a forklift, I don't know, but we'll make that list of what's on your priorities, and we'll see what we can come up with. And then that gets us to August, where we do planning for the next year. Right, so it's, year gets away from us in a hurry. You look up and all of a sudden it's turned back around, right? That Father Time just keeps chugging. Pages 6 and 7 of this, we have been required the last several years to write a kind of a specific plan on what April is intending to ask of us as a board from a recommendation standpoint. That is our scope and our mission, is to write recommendations to DOE. So these are the specific items that we have identified that could potentially be sources of a recommendation from you guys. You can provide a recommendation on anything we talk about, anything we don't talk about, as long as it's, you know, under April's bailiwick. If it makes you happy, we can pull that up and do all the work and write a recommendation on just about anything. These are 3 that she identified specifically and said it would be helpful if you guys provided this, right? So that doesn't mean that's all we can do, but that's kind of leading us in this direction. You know, that this time next year when we look back, that, you know, that's how we know we've done a good job. Anything you want to add, April? That's the work plan.
No, it's good.
Don? Questions?
Questions from the board?
I don't have a question, but I was wondering if some of the folks that are observing there, that are future members, know what PACRO is, or PFAS, or any of that.
That's a
They know
good
what you're
question.
referring
Are you asking them, or do you want, it's just, I thought you were going to turn around and like quiz them all. No?
But you might want to share
Okay.
with them what that is, if they're not aware of PACRO or what you're talking about.
Sure. So we mentioned PFAS with the regulatory documents, and I'm not going to attempt to explain that acronym. Angus, it is per or polyfluor. Oh, you're cheating.
Notes. You
Notes. I'm sorry, I meant
you should
notes.
always have your notes. Per and polyfluoral alkyl substances.
Excellent. These are the forever chemicals that are associated with various Teflons and slick materials that you use to keep liquids flowing and gases moving. Were very common in industry, right? And we're finding that they tend to end up in water streams, human bodies, food, plants, and it's kind of a new phenomenon, and not a new phenomenon. The urgency on it, the emerging contaminant, thank you, is the phrase they use, right? So it's kind of a new concern. And so we are trying to figure out how the EPA, and in our case, the Department of Energy, are going to manage and regulate this, and what the health implications are, and what the cleanup options are. So it could potentially be a very big deal. You guys are probably all familiar with PCBs. You know, that's been 20 years we've been tracing PCBs, maybe longer than that. Mercury, lead, you know, there's some things. Asbestos is another good one. There are things that we're aware. PFAS is the next in the line of all these chemicals that were very helpful at one point in time, and now we realize have some issues. And so we're working through that. PACRO is the Paducah Area Community Reuse Organization. So the Department of Energy several years ago at each of the DOE sites, and there are 8 sites around the country, large sites, set up these community reuse organizations as the tool to help sites reindustrialize. Right now, being used as an avenue to transfer real and personal property. So if there is a old vehicle, a desk that is clean and safe and they have a use for, you can transfer it to PACRO, and PACRO can sell it and use that money for economic growth and development. And so Buzz, that's kind of your, anything you want to say about
Yeah,
PACRO and that
just,
relationship?
PACRO it's a unique situation because they were set up to help communities replace jobs that will eventually go away in DOE communities. Like our plant's going to shut down, so a lot of jobs there. PACRO will reuse the asset like it's an old truck, or DOE can also give them scrap, like some of the scrap from our electrical switchyards, copper, aluminum, and all has been given to PACRO. And so basically what Eric said, they can use that money to help attract new business, or they can use it to give the asset to existing business to help them grow. But we mentioned personal property. You can also give real property to community reuse organizations. That's not, you can give real property to any organization, but as a matter of fact, a lot of excess real property goes to the Crows. But that's not specifically what they're set up for, it's personal property.
Other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, and didn't PACRO also, I know historically they used to give loans to small businesses.
Yeah.
Starting out as part of the reemployment scenario.
Yeah, they can sell assets, and then they can decide what they do with that money. But like Gay's saying, they set up a business loan pool. Like for instance, if you eat a mellow mushroom got their initial loan from PACRO. So, and they've helped kick in toward industrial, what do they call it? Industrial parks, creation of industrial parks, spec buildings, that sort of thing. So they do a lot for the community. They don't toot their horn a lot, but they're very, very good, and they work with economic development agencies too. So.
And it's a Fog County.
Yeah, you're right. Actually, yeah, that's right. The 5 impacted counties, which is it's made up of the 5 impacted counties, which are the 5 surrounding counties where most of the employment at the plant comes from.
So ours is what, McCracken, Ballard, Graves?
I knew that question coming. Yes, McCracken, Ballard, Graves, Massac, Illinois,
Marshall.
and Marshall, yeah.
So a lot of times when you're looking at economic development and growth, you can find grants and things that will fund chunks of your project, but usually those dollars are very specific, and there's always these odds and ends, right? We will cover everything but like street lights or culverts or whatever it is, or if you can raise 10%, we'll give you the 90% match. And finding that 10% is usually the difference in make or break on projects. PACRO has this money with no color to it. They can use it for whatever. So that's really where you see them be very creative. And it usually doesn't take a lot of direct funds to lead to that becoming multiplied a great deal in growth and economic development. And that's a tremendous tool and asset that our community has is this fund of dollars with no color. It's just what we can just come up with.
Let me go back to comment on what Fran said and get back onto that to our newer members who are waiting their turn. You will hear a lot of acronyms. If you get that glazed over look, just raise your hand. April will stop. She will realize what she did. Put the hand out. Shame on you. It's very easy just to speak in those words, and everybody understands, not really. But we act like we do. So don't feel like you need to come in having known what all of those mean. It's a learning curve, but we also have to train our presenters to understand that we don't know all of those. Just like you'll get used to certain buildings because of the C333, C100, if you worked on the site, you know all of those buildings by heart and what they are. Those people who are new will say, I don't know what you're talking about. Which building? And so we take time to point out which building we're talking about. So over your period of time, we're not here to inundate you with all that information. We want you to feel very comfortable, but also at the same time, feel comfortable enough to say, wait, stop a second, explain that to me. Whether it's something like Pac Row, which could be and has been a whole evening program before. So sometimes it seems like a simple term, but it can be very complicated. PFAS being, you can say what it is, but it's complicated and how it'll be treated. And that's why we have a whole separate night devoted to that as well. But we do want all our newer members to feel comfortable. We also want all of our experienced people who will come across a term, they say, I don't know what you're talking about. Be confident enough to say, Buzz, what was that again? Explain that. Or Eric. So, thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Fran, for bringing that up.
Just a couple last minute items on the work plan before you guys take up a vote on it. One, this is just that, it's a plan, and it is subject to change. If there are items that become critically important to either you guys or to April, we will have that discussion, and this can be modified and adjusted as needed. Plus, throughout the year, April will continue to provide updates to us and let us know on other projects that are going on and things like that. So don't think this is all we're going to hear about this year. There will be other things that are going on. And maybe where April is her best, to brag on you a little bit, is one-on-one conversations. And if you catch her before the meeting, after the meeting, on tour, wherever, and just say, hey, I had a question about this. And just let her show off what all she knows and explain it to you is a great way to know a little more. And she's always been, what I've seen, more than willing and really good at explaining what's going on there. So just want to guys let you know that there's more coming than this, even if it's not on a piece of paper. So
The plan before you has come through various sources, various meetings, came through the executive committee and all of that coming from the executive committee. It's presented to you, doesn't need a second from the board itself. Are there any other questions or concerns about the work plan for fiscal year 2025? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting this as the work plan, as Eric said, plan for the upcoming year, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same? Plan carries.
nice. So we will get with Ben. We will get an official signature from you, put it on file, and then post. We have your signature on file on the front of this and make it a legal document. That way we're not throwing your, when you sign, if you'll put a credit card number, that would be helpful.
Preferably the one with the biggest limit.
Okay.
I don't know if we can change that.
Now we will take that.
We're ready for our summer
Yeah.
intern presentation.
Steve, you guys all know Steve Christmas, right? Steve, before Landry and Robert come up here, do you want to talk a little bit about the intern? It's your baby. So anything you want to say before they get rolling?
I just want to say that we have a tremendous opportunity to have the interns on site, and they come in, they do really cool jobs, they work with some really mentors, and they have mentors. They're so excited about them coming because they're prepared for them so that they can work with them. And you'll see the tasks that these guys have turned out, and we just said who would like to do it. We're certainly glad these are the ones that you're going to get tonight. We start. We actually are beginning next month going to Murray to begin our recruiting process and begin to meet people. In fact, Landry will tell you, if I tell them who you met a year ago, will that mess up your presentation? So last year when we went to Murray, he came by the booth and met our chief engineer, and she was just taking absolutely whenever she saw that. She hired him and did not realize at that moment that he was the guy that came through and made a great impact and great impression. She hired him. It was a great experience. So he comes out and does that. And so we went to the University of Kentucky when Ben hosted the Spotlight. And we also got some folks there as well. So it was a neat opportunity. We had students who come from obviously the University of Kentucky and Murray, but also some students that were local students that had lived in Marshall County that went to Knoxville that had the opportunity to come back and work in this area. One was from Marshall County and went to Baylor. and had an opportunity to come back. So it was really neat for them to come back and do some experience here, and so that was really exciting. It's not just these interns, but also the opportunity that ETOS, because it's not a Four Rivers intern program, it's the United States Department of Energy's intern program. We're excited about being a part of that, so thank you for that.
No, thank you. Hey, one of my favorite things about this this program is that it is not a May 23rd through July 15th. I talk to Steve about the intern program at least once a month all year long. Like, hey, what do you think about this? No, what would you hear? Like, we're going to recruit. What's going on? What will the cab think if you guys do this? Like, it is on the forefront of his mind all year to build a program that is really top of the line and is beneficial to the FRNP and DOE, right? Because we're spending tax dollars on this, but also is something that will be very beneficial to those kids, right? They'll get that experience. So, as I say, kids, forgive me. All right, Landry, Robert, you guys want to come up?
Who's going first?
I'll go first.
Look at Landry's like, I'm getting done getting out of here. So, at the end of their program, they do a little slideshow, kind of a graduation presentation, right? Kind of a highlight what their project entailed, what it looks like, what it's done. So we've asked them to kind of hit the highlights of that. It's just a handful of slides normally. Right, Robert went above and beyond, right? So and then we're gonna open it up to questions from you guys, and then just let them talk a little bit about their experience. So, Landry smiles. Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Keble, so I'm a local boy.
Yes.
So if you guys don't already know me, I'm Landry Smiles. I was a systems engineer intern at Four Rivers Nuclear Partnership, and I go to Murray State University. I'm currently a second year sophomore, and I'm studying engineering physics. Okay, so here's some of the projects that I got the opportunity to work on this summer. So I did the lead survey on sanitary piping. So basically, we report all the lead lines that are still left inside of USEG to the state. And then I did a Nilfis vacuum plug drawing, which I'll show you guys a picture here in a second. I did a facility change traveler and drawing on AutoCAD for that. So you can see here, I got basically just a drawing of 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional stuff. I was a visual observer for their aerial survey of the landfill. So basically, quarterly, we have surveys of the landfill that show the difference between like how much stuff we buried 6 months ago or how much stuff we buried now. We send up a drone in this picture, and it has a package on the bottom with a LiDAR scanner. So it basically scans over the ground, and it's got a set designated path that it runs, and it will show the difference between, you know, we buried 60 foot of this last month or however much. So here's a picture of me doing the CAS system walk down on the roof of 337. So if you guys don't know what 337 is, it's a process building, and CAS is criticality accident alarm system. So these systems allow us to know if there's ionizing radiation in the air, and so if it exceeds a certain point, all the horns in the USEC side or the plant side trip. So here's a picture of me using a acoustic air leak detector in basically a machine shop. So instead of there being water in the fire water lines, they removed it because of it got cold in the winter and the pipes would bust. So now it's full of air, but sometimes these lines leak. So instead of sending people up there, we have these FLIR detectors that can detect air leaks from on the floor.
Hey, Landry, you mentioned 337. Can you point that out on the
aerial map behind
you?
Oh,
map?
Yeah, 337 should be right here.
And 720.
720 is right here.
Oh, look at you, answering all the pop questions. Right. Nice. Well done.
Teach you to go first.
So here's some of the things that I learned. So I got to learn a whole lot of AutoCAD. I mean, I worked with all the drafters, and I did a bunch of 3-dimensional and 2-dimensional design while I was there. And I also got to learn Excel and especially time management. I really like to hit on time management because like this internship has really showed me how to be an actual engineer. Like being a first year in college, like I had no idea what being an actual engineer was like. But Karen Sizemore kind of took me under her wing, and she showed me that it's not like you don't work on one thing at a time. You have to manage your time equally because I mean you're not just going to have one project. You have to manage your time evenly to be able to finish things by this deadline or that deadline. But I got a really good dose of time management while I was there. And of course, I learned a whole lot about the site history. I'm a legacy, so both my grandparents worked there, and so I got that side of the story and history from them. And then I also got to hear a whole bunch of stories from my coworkers. And then also got to do a whole lot of technical writing, so facility change travelers. Anytime we want to change a process at the plant, we have to write a facility change traveler. And then these two pictures down here are me with the R114 coolant tanks and ISOs. So the ISO is basically...
Tell them what R114 is.
It's Freon. So it's like basically Freon that you have in your refrigerator or like your air conditioner at home, but it's used for cooling. So we don't really have a use for R114 anymore, so we ship it off-site. But it's stored in these big coolant tanks on the left, and we pump it out into these tractor-trailer, like semi things, and we basically ship it off-site to be incinerated. But overall, I love this internship. There's not a single one that I would have done, and it's crazy to me that I live so close, and I've never been able to get in this place until now. But it's a whole city out there. I love it so much. But it honestly not only taught me how to be a real engineer, but there's a whole world of things out there, and there's not enough time to see it all. Thank you guys.
Hey, real quick before we run off, and we'll bring it back up. What did it mean to your grandparents, you interning out there?
Oh, it meant everything.
Did it change like conversations and discussions?
We got to talking about like all kinds of 720 this, 333 that, like all these. I mean, I knew all the buildings and like I don't know. It was kind of crazy that I just unlocked a new set of knowledge to be able to have those conversations with them.
That's awesome.
You brought them on a tour, like you were one of the interns that actually signed up for a July tour. Can you tell about that?
Oh yeah, so I got both my grandparents and my parents to come with me on the tour.
A DOE public tour, like one of the Saturday tours, right?
Yeah. So my parents had never been out there, so that was kind of eye-opening for them. They were like, dang, these buildings are giant. I mean, you'd never would have known that those buildings would have been there from the road. I mean, it's just absurd.
So is it safe to say that like, because of your experience with that, like I think for next year we've talked about including a Parents' Day into it. So, because we had lots of interns that we talked to that were like, my mom and dad have no clue what I'm talking about. Like they can't even fathom what I'm experiencing. And so intentionally building a day or a couple days or however, bring your parent to work week, whatever it is, Steve, whatever's allowed. But, so that you can have that experience and they can go home and you can have that discussion and the parents know what you're talking about.
Yeah, and it was great to be able to drive around the plant site and tell my parents, oh, I worked on this in this building, and I can show them, because just telling them doesn't really sometimes get the point across. And then when you show them, they're like, oh, okay, that's what that looks like. So it really helped a lot.
That's awesome. Great. Thank you. All right. Hi, Robert.
All right, so y'all know my name is Robert. I studied at the University of Kentucky Paducah campus, College of Engineering. I know Ben already. This was my first year being a part of the Four Rivers team. I was able to intern with the NDA group. I see one person that I know personally from the group. These were my main mentors. I had three that I was able to work with, a man named Brett Montgomery, Tyler Correll, and Joseph Ham. The biggest thing this year that I was able to be a part of was polyethylene testing. The main thing that we use when we're trying to test materials for a level of holdup in a container or in anything that you would think of as waste, you have to have background removed. Well, this is what polyethylene is for. We use this polyethylene to shut out all of the background that you could imagine would be in a nuclear plant.
And by hold up, what do you mean?
So hold up would be what we may have made and what possibly could have been left over from that process in the DOE site, Cascade. As you know, we enriched uranium. So there is uranium possibly still there that you would have to take care of. There is a level that we have to stay under. It's a gram value, and we have to stay under that gram value in order to ship it off-site to save money and use that money elsewhere in order to make it more efficient. So this polyethylene makes it a more efficient process because we're able to get lower gram values, saves us money, and also provides an opportunity to know actually what's there.
And you said you're comparing against background.
Background.
So what's background?
So background is what you would consider what's in this room right now. So we have an average background, and if you were to go to the site, it would have a higher background. The background is just based off the radiation levels, which are still quite low, but it is a different level compared to, like, say, if you went into a building. The building that may have been a part of the process probably has a higher radiation level than if you're outside that building. Or say like the cylinder yard that you all have seen, that has a higher radiation level that we would have to account for in NDA. And that is in order to make sure we have a better reading. That background has to be taken into consideration. That's like with all the tests that NDA does, that is the one thing they have to know, is where they're at, the location on the site. So like cylinder yard, if you're on this side of the building and you're taking a scan, you have to make sure that you notify them that's where you're at. It could be said like if you're on the far side of a building, there may not be as much, you know. So that's basically what background is, and that's what we have to account for. Go on to some of the things that mainly focused on this polyethylene. The main thing that we're looking for is to be cost effective. That's the thing that we always look for. We want to make sure that our money is used wisely and it can be used the most efficient way. The main way we did this was through my testing and making sure that the process we have currently in place were tried and true, and they worked. Some of the things that we'll have pictures of in a second are like the arcs that use the same high density polyethylene. It just goes over more of just the same things that we looked at. You can see that I had to do a lot of initial testing to make sure that what I was going to do I could replicate in the future possibly. And so this is one of the biggest systems that we have currently. It would be located, if you looked at this, you're going down the main road. It's hard to see, yeah. Right, it'd be over. Thank you. Yeah, right there. Somewhere right there. But it's Linus. So Linus is our state-of-the-art system that can measure these converter bundles, and that's what we really are looking into. As you mentioned earlier, we have to measure these bundles for a gram value before we do anything else, and that is what Linus is for. It's our state-of-the-art system, large atom neutron assay system. It uses the high-density polyethylene. This is actually borated high-density polyethylene, which is one of the tests that I was able to do. What that actually does is it's like captures the neutrons with a chemical reaction. It's got really thick walls and eliminates the background. And so you can see the different types of high-density polyethylene that I was able to use. These were two different types, and then you have your black high-density polyethylene, borated and borated. That was the jig that I used in order to set up my experiments that I was doing in order to make sure that everything could be replicated and done in an efficient manner. See, I had some help with one of the workers, and overall everyone was so helpful within my experiments. So here you can see like the different backgrounds. So this is when we mean background, what do you mean? So like you can imagine if you're looking at these numbers like on a count level, how big of a difference between like 1 sheet and 4 sheet would be. You can imagine in a sound booth, if you had 1 layer of the soundproofing compared to 4 layers of the soundproofing, that's essentially what the high density polyethylene does. It removes your background significantly. You can go ahead and go to the next one. And this one will show how big it is with none compared to the 3 different types, the black And then that was a blue-green borated and the green borate. You can see how big it is with none compared to. So that's how we're removing our background. And here's like one of the, when we get into the experiments, we're looking at like different configurations. You know, you always want to figure out what works best. So that's what we were doing here, figuring out what works best. You can see that this one worked extremely well compared to the rest, but this one was pretty good too. And when we go back to feasibility and making sure that it's practical for the site, we want to make sure all of our experiments go back to what could be possible. So at our site, this is what could have been possible. You can see none. And then this is what our high-density polyethylene dropped the background, or what you could perceive as in your experiment, the background to. Dropped it quite a bit. So besides my experimentations and that side of things, I was also able to be a part of the educator externship, and that's where teachers were able to come and tour the site, see what all we have, the different jobs that are provided, and then they can relay that back to their students. I was able to see that process and talk a little bit to some of the teachers. It was really nice to get to see the community come in. I mean, that's what we're here for. We are here for the community. We're here to make this place better and also to provide jobs for the future. And I managed the signing table for the Fed Speed families, which is a big thing. It's one of the largest, I think this year we had, Steve, was it the largest? It was. And so that's something that we always enjoy doing. This is my first year and I loved being a part of it, seeing everyone involved. This is another thing I was able to get involved in Paducah, is go to the community kitchen, and that was a great experience. And then you can see some of the people that I was able to work with. We got, let's see, Dustin, and some other people in there. I know their name, but I don't want to talk too much. But anyways, overall, like, I had such a blast, a wonderful experience. I couldn't have any words different. I mean, it was amazing. Got to do a lot of different things, got to see a lot of the different spots in the plant. Any questions?
So real quick, Linus is basically a drive-through Geiger counter.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And so you got these large cylinders that we've talked about, and they need to know exactly what contaminant is left, hold up.
Yes.
Right? And so your study was on what is the proper lining to put on the on the Linus, so you're getting less background as you go through, correct? Is that accurate?
Yes, and so
sort of.
Yes.
Okay.
Within our system, we have to make sure that there is enough thickness, but not so much that you're wasting material. And so that's where we found an efficiency. You know, because we already have the concrete there, which we're mainly focused on solar radiation because that's what is affected the most.
Did you say efficiency?
Mm-hmm.
There is a government employee if I've ever seen one. Well done.
Hey, we teach them right up there.
That's okay. Landry, you snuck away. All right, so come on up here. What questions do you guys have for them about the program, their experience?
I got a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Fran.
Would you guys like to work there full-time?
Yes, I would. I had such a fun time first go around. I'd like to have a second internship and go
I'm
through
not
the
talking
process.
insurance yet. I'm talking about paying you to be their full-time employee.
Yes, ma'am.
Absolutely.
Well, guys, got 2 employees coming in. Don't have to worry about it. That's wonderful work. I'm really proud of you guys. You guys had a great experience and you demonstrated to us what you learned and did it so we kind of understood. So that was good.
What other questions you guys have for him?
You said you'd like to do internship, are you going to apply again for the next years?
Yeah, yes, sir.
Would you want to do the same area, or would you like to see a different side? Was there something else that kind of piqued your interest?
Yes, there is always something that piques your interest, and the engineering side piqued my interest. Being on the NDA side was extremely fun and knowledgeable as far as what I've gained from it, but the engineering side would be nice to see as well. I would like to see how their day is.
Yeah, I think I would say like the exact like opposite. I feel like if me and him reversed roles, I feel like it'd be pretty fun. I'd love to see NDA.
So are you going to spread the word to your fellow students, or are you going to keep your internships to yourself?
they're on their own.
We don't have to answer that, that's on you, man. So has it changed how you look at school now you've gone back and?
Absolutely. Like, I feel like I go to class now and I see like, oh, I used it at this point in my internship, or I use this calculation to calculate R114 Freon inventory. Like, I see it in my classes almost every day.
I'd say just in general, each class period carries more weight for me, now understanding how important that you know whatever you're dealing with to a T. Like, you could point something out of a textbook, like an equation. Like, I feel like there's a lot more weight now than there was before as an impact.
You see the tangibility of it now.
Yes.
Other questions?
Do you have any stressors or anxiety coming onto the site and trying to get up to speed?
A lot of experienced people previously there, so it's one of those things you want to live up to their expectations. You want to live up to what their knowledge is at, and that is a difficulty, but you work through it. They're really helpful. Everyone that I've met gives you all the information you need and more, and you're able to take that in at the speed that they think you're comfortable with, and it works out. It's very nice.
So you guys also did a lot of stuff beyond just engineering work. You did fundraising, you did some community engagement stuff, you did some leadership development. You want to talk about any of the additional pieces that kind of rounded out your?
The cake auction was awesome. I love that. It was kind of chaotic, but it was so much fun.
Yeah. When I got to go do the kitchen in Paducah, the community kitchen, that was a really big eye-opener for me. I've done volunteer work before, but not like that. And just seeing how much just one place can help the community. We have many of those types of facilities across our counties that encompass the site and everything. It's a really big eye-opener to do those types of things.
And what I've really noticed about the community out there at the plant is everybody's willing to give. I mean, this is going to Feds Feed Families, so there's no shortage of people always pitching in because they know where this money's going.
How much did you guys raise?
In total
Ballpark?
on the DOE side?
Yeah, ballpark.
That's a Ryan question.
Well, it was on the cake auction day. Was it 12,000?
42 minutes.
In 42 minutes.
The whole event was 25.
Selling themselves out there for some cakes.
On the flip side, personally, my intern here, he brought us drinks and popsicles just to stock up the refrigerators in our office throughout the hot months. So that was really neat. We love having interns.
Because he was paying.
Anything else? Hey, thank you guys for coming. You guys are in the midst of the school and Steve.
I want to comment on something that I observed tonight. You all saw competence. You saw two people who have been gone for 7 weeks and that could say, these are the places, these are the buildings, they knew where it was. I saw confidence tonight because I saw them on day one and they didn't stand up as confident as they did tonight. But that's what's really cool about the intern program is it builds competence, but it builds confidence because every week when professional developments are there, we practice standing up, presenting ourselves in public. And I was excited to see that tonight. I thought that was really cool. And then I also had a note that Ms. Fran, you made a comment about though we have 2, we've already hired 2. And today I learned that we just hired our 3rd one. So out of the summer intern program, we've already hired those 3. We got 2 more that said, I want to come, so that's pretty cool. And then you asked me a question a moment while we were talking about applications. So we go to Murray on October 1 and 2. And ETOS is also going there, as well as other contractors, subcontractors such as Geo Consultants is being there. They're a Ballard location. Other places are going there to be recruiting, and then we'll actually start taking applications on October the 15th through December 15th. And we start our interview process in January, and then we'll make our selections within 8 weeks and be ready to start putting them through the process to get them to speak with their sites there. Thank you.
So as long as they're in college,
Yes.
they could be an intern.
We actually have 2 parts. We have a part where, because we do craft, so like for Billy Bob and the craft team, We hired this year high school, because high schools have a program that's like the hub. Those are area trade centers, and we do that with Ballard County, McCracken, also with Paducah City Schools. And so we did hire 4 people out of the high school level to work in our craft program. And the additional part of them were hired out of the colleges. And they were in different disciplines, including science, technology, engineering, math, as well as the business disciplines of accounting, business, other types of things. But all of those positions, and so yes, they will be on all those levels. And that will be the same for what we expect to be next year.
So is that the same? Is it the same time frame for getting your applications in?
Yes, it will.
Okay. October 15th through December.
I'll just add on to, when he says all positions, it really is all. If there was an intern that was in the medical department, she was a nurse that helped with plant employees' physicals and things like that. We had communications, public affairs interns. It really is across the board. Not just the STEM stuff, but and then the laborers. We went from 1 to 4, so hopefully that'll continue to grow as well. So it really is. I got to be at the presentations that they presented at the end for them, the ETAS interns, and the DOE interns as well. So we had a really good bunch of kids kids, yes. Yep. Yeah. Young adults, young professionals. We had a very great group of young professionals this past internships.
Hey Steve, one last question for you. It came up last time. You had a sizable number of female interns as well. That none of them were. We tried to get a couple of them here. No. You want to speak to that at all?
Probably, I don't have that number on top of my head, but I would say right at 40-50% almost, give or take every year, is about that number. So yes, female interns. And in fact, I had 2 that were going to come this week, but because of conflicts, because we originally asked for sign-ups and they had 5, and some of them have tests this week and things of that nature. So but 2 of the 5 were female that were going to be coming as well.
So the 2 females took their academics seriously and stayed home to study.
When I got done taking an exam today. I was a trooper.
That's awesome. That's good. Awesome. Any last questions? Hey guys, thanks. I appreciate it. Nice.
Eric, were there any people signed up for public comments this evening?
I don't believe so.
Okay, moving on down the agenda, you notice the next to last item says final comments. And Fran, on my copy, it says Fran Johnson after that.
Didn't say that on mine.
It does on mine. So Fran, this is your opportunity. Final comments.
As I said in the executive committee meeting, this is my last meeting, and it's been a pleasure and honor to serve on the CAB. I didn't know what I was getting into, or I kind of knew what I was getting into. But I've learned a lot, and I could take what I've learned here and also put what I was dealing with and doing in the chamber as VP of Governmental Affairs. So it enlightened me and clarified some things that I heard from meetings and things, but I could hear even more so here. So again, thank you for honoring me to serve as your vice chair for several years and for allowing me to be on the board. It's been a pleasure, as I said, and an honor, and I thank you so much.
So it's been great having Fran serve in this role of leadership. She's been instrumental when we have hosted the chairs meeting and brought folks from across the complex into Paducah and made sure that we put our best foot forward and always wanting to let Paducah show out a little bit. But she's also been tremendous as a representative of you guys in the community when we've gone to other places and really just it's just been a true champion of Paducah and you guys, and can always the first to say, like when you see conflict between boards and DOE, she's like, we like our DOE folks and let me tell you how great they are, right? So like in the midst of where there's a lot of times there's this healthy tension, sometimes it gets to where it's not healthy between DOE and the boards, and Friends, like, we don't have that, and that's not who we are. And that's a big deal and really sets us apart as a community, and she's been instrumental in that. So, Ben, Kay, you got big shoes to fill. And you'll do fine. You'll do fine. It'll be great. So we do have a little something for you. If you'll pass that over to. So, Fran, if you'll come on up here.
No, I don't.
April would like to. We have just a small token of, and then we'll actually stage a good photo in a minute when we have time. But
in front of the flag, maybe?
yeah, we'll do it after.
Yeah, do it later. Get that too.
But just wanted to say thank you, and a little token of our appreciation for your time and your effort and what you've meant to us. That's all right.
A little bit.
So after we adjourn, Gay, if you will stick around for just a second. Ben, if you'll stick around, and Don, we'll let you guys help with April and Buzz present this to her. Good deal. All right, last comments from you guys before we wrap it up.
Since I have the gavel way over here, I'll throw it to you, but I'll just bang it and you can officially adjourn us.
All right, thank you guys.